Hello again, and thank you for joining me for another episode of the Noble Father podcast. Today is June the 24th, 2024, and there's never going to be a day like this again. I'm your host, Theophilus, and this is a podcast of passion. And, when I think of what it means to be a man, one of the epitomes of being a pinnacle of being a man is a father. And today is a very special day. My daughter just graduated from kindergarten, and you know, I'm never gonna live this again. She is my last child. My daughter and I, God hasn't said to have another child, so she is the last one, and it's a big deal. It's a big deal, and and as I was thinking about what to record for this week's episode, and I just think of my daughter and how much she's enabled me to grow as a father, as a man, as a human being, as a husband, even. There's so many things about having a daughter, just so different from having a son. I want to talk about some of those things today. I don't know who's going to listen to this, and who knows, somebody down the line is going to be expecting a daughter or something, and the information that they get from this podcast may benefit them. I don't know. I am just as imperfect as the next guy, as you always hear me say on this podcast. I am always trying to do my best. I am not the perfect father, and there are every day there are lessons for me to learn. um, you know, daughter's 6, graduated from kindergarten, and, the day starts out with, us waking up, making breakfast for them. My daughter doesn't really eat a big breakfast. And, she's a little smaller for her frame, for her size, and that's okay. I mean, her mother's, definitely not, tall or anything in that manner. She's just small in stature, and, but they command so much space there. Like I like to say, my daughter has her mother's fiery attitude, or fiery, spicy, attitude. Where my wife is from, it's known for three things. They say, hot weather, hot food, and hot women. Hot in the sense of, beauty, also very fiery attitudes. Yes, I'm going to hear a lot from people who listen to this podcast saying, oh, you're calling other women hot. Yeah, I am. So deal with it. And she likes to choose her own outfits. And, my wife really wanted my daughter to wear a dress, right? And it's a formal occasion, should wear a dress, but, my daughter obviously just decides what she wants to. And so she, this week last week made a tie-dye shirt at school. And so she wanted to wear that. And so my wife reluctantly allowed her to wear what she wanted. And, she had these pair of pants that, had, very, very nice colors to them. And so she chose to do that. And, fatherhood is one in which you can't really force yourself on a child. You can't force your ideals and your, virtues and what you want for them to wear to their graduation onto their children. And you just, you gotta mercifully and gracefully, work with them to do. We have a wedding coming up this weekend. My cousin is getting married, and my wife put down the foot and just said, hey, you can wear what you want to this graduation thing, but you must wear a dress for the wedding, just to let you know that you can't get away with it that day. And, being a girl dad is a very interesting journey, because I have a son, right? Obviously the oldest one is a son, and it's hard for her whenever she wants to do certain things that me and my son do, and she can't, right? Growing up as a kid, I took showers with my brother, when I was young. I was like 8, maybe 6 years old or something. Showered with one of our friends that were male, and that was a normal thing culturally. That's fine. It was innocent. There's nothing. And even now, my son, who's 9, or he's going to be 9 in next month, he'd often ask, like, "Daddy, can we shower together?" And that's a very normal thing for us culturally. It saves water. It's bonding time, right? Yeah, honestly, my my son is not good at showering yet. So like, even just seeing how he shampoos his head, it's like he just avoids the sides and stuff. And it's just funny like that. And it's cultural. It's a cultural thing for us. And so it's very very innocent. And I'm sure there's going to be those that listen to this and like, oh gosh, this guy's adult male talking about how he's showering with his kid and all this stuff. Like, just like, get your head out of the nasty place and just think about how it's just a father and a son bonding. What do you think hunters did back in the day? What do you think? It's a normal thing. It's a bonding thing for us. You can think all you want about it. So because my son and my and I would do this, like, my daughter would want this as well. She wants to bond with her father, and she would ask, "Daddy, can I shower with you?" And "Daddy, can you shower with me?" And it's like, but though my mind is innocent, I need to teach her that these are boundaries that we do not cross. Was there a time where I did this? Yes, when she was younger, right? And she would be in the bathtub, and I'd sit outside of it, and we'd just shower. And while I'm in there, I'm gonna get wet anyways. Might as well shower myself as well, and just and that's how you bathe the child. Like, that's just how you bathe the child. This world has just gotten to a point where we've, like, corrupted our minds, and like, can't even, like, this world has gotten to the point where I know that there's certain stratas, like apartment complexes or condominium complexes that demand that children of siblings of opposite genders must have their separate rooms. Like, where did we go from parents having which is their God-given right and responsibility to care for their family, their children, and raise them up in the way they should go, just like the Bible says, to now the strata saying they have a say in this matter? Like, it boggles my mind. Actually, interestingly, I was walking to the school, because daughter's graduation ceremony was today, and I was just thinking about how, like, this world has gotten to this place. We've gone to this place where we have to police other families. We have to tell people what to do, and almost as if we've taken a step back in civilization, and now we've lost that responsibility. Having conversations with some friends, and they're doing a camp at their church, and this family would bring their kid to the thing, and they were underaged, and so they're not there for the camp, but because there's people watching over kids, they thought it was the perfect context for them to drop their kid off, and then they just almost as if it was a daycare, drop their kid off who was unruly, and then they would vacate. They would leave and leave this child in the responsibility of people who, yes, it's a church. They're doing an event, and it involves kids, but not kids that your kids are aged appropriate for, and then just leave, and then they're there and disrupt the whole activity. Like, we've lost that responsibility. We've lost our roles, our rightful roles. And what's worse is the lack of accountability, right? We're in this day and age of, like, political correctness, right? And when I think of political correctness, I look at, like, the perfect analogy for this, or the example of this, is like, you're eating at a restaurant, and you're eating a hot dog, and you get ketchup and mustard on your face. And because we don't want to make somebody look like a fool, we avoid telling them that they have ketchup and mustard on their face, because it's an awkward conversation. You're scared of what they may think or whatever. And there comes a point where you get to where you've gone too long without saying anything, and then suddenly it becomes awkward, even more awkward, and so you don't say anything. And you could just imagine you go through life like that. Oh, it's on your face, but nobody's honest, and everybody's scared of what you might take away from what you said and call them out on it. Like I I I the golden rule in law, right, is treat others how you like to be treated, right? If I had that on my face, I would want anybody to tell me that I have something on my face and to wipe it, regardless of how awkward it is. And because I know how awkward it is, I would not ridicule the person and be ashamed that I have this on my face. It's very human to be imperfect. We've gotten to this place of needing to show this perfection, and it's gotten us to this place of needing to softball our words, needing to cushion them, and this never serves. And this is the worst, because a church should be a place where the message should be delivered as raw and as truthfully and as honestly as it can be. Yes, does it take vulnerability? Yes, does it take it takes a certain mature individual to take that for themselves rather than to make a judgment about what the pastor says. And so if the pastor is teaching and he has to disclaim his words, the umph of that message is lost, right? And like it, and this is the world, and I didn't intend for this podcast to be talking about this, but it's just something that's been sitting in my heart, and I really hate it. I really don't like it. I'm very honest with people, and because I really I want that honesty in my life. I want to know when I step out of line that somebody is eager and willing to tell me that I did something wrong, because you know what? The coin is flipped over. You're doing something wrong. Out of love and care for you, I would speak up and say, hey, I am concerned for you. Out of love for you, I think you need to stop this. You need to change this behavior. This is what it means to love, not beating around the bush about something, right? You can't even say the word suicide nowadays. You can't even say depression nowadays. You can't even call out somebody for being obese. You can't even say that they are mentally unstable. You can't even say the psych ward. You can't even say psychiatry without somebody thinking that you're a cuckoo or a nut. Like, why? The way to support somebody is to encourage them to go get help. If you don't want the moniker, go do something about it. Don't require everybody to just pussyfoot around your problem and like, give you the pat on the back and say it's okay, or allow them to get away with. If anything, that kind of behavior makes you complicit to their situation. It makes you an accomplice to their problem. You've allowed them to get away with their problem. Rather, we should be like, yo, like, you look unhealthy, go get well. Or, hey, maybe it's not good to be sitting on these thoughts. Maybe it's not good to be percolating on these things. Hey, you should go get some help. Hey, I'm concerned for you. Out of love for you, I'm concerned for you. Hey, if I want you to stick around and I want more time with you as a friend, wouldn't I ask for help, right? What happens when we don't deal with it? And there's a main reason why we're doing Noble Father. What happens when we don't say anything about it, or when we have the fear of saying something, or the perception of somebody else of what we might say to them? Or if I wanted to share that I had a deep mental struggle and I didn't share those things, what happens? We know what happens, right? Those friends who suddenly off themselves and or do terrible things, horrible acts of violence because they've had enough. And what do you hear from their friends? The most common thing, the people that are more closest to them were like, wow, or the neighbors are like, wow, we had no idea, caught us by surprise. We didn't know he was capable of such a thing. The first thing I think whenever I hear those things is like, did you actually really know the person? Like, did you even dig beyond the fact that when you ask them, how are you doing? They said, I'm fine. Like, you just take that as okay? Like, is that just how you live? Is that just how surface your relationships are? So you can imagine, you can see why Noble Father was created for the reason it was. The meetups are meant to be deep. They're meant to be, intentional to go deeper and ask, hey, how are you actually doing? Like, I don't want to hear the same old, oh, this week was nothing and it was okay and then that was it. And then, and yeah, it was nothing special happened this week. Really? Like, is that really how you live life? Is that really how it goes? Like, I'm, I, so many things happen in my life. I sit down here every Monday and I wonder what to talk about. I am overflowing with things to talk about. I have things that I can choose from. Like, so many things. As setbacks happen, I learn lessons. There's wins. There's relationships. There's even just news. Last week, driving out, going to pick up bread, and the road's blocked off. And I'm like, blocked off near, where my friend Alex has his tattoo shop. And I'm wondering, I'm like, what happened? And I look down the street. There's cop cars down the street. And so, I had to take a big detour. Go to the church, pick up bread, and then come back the same road. And guess what? Street's also blocked. And so we're like, oh, interesting. So we got to, and so, what do? Pick up the phone, call friend Alex. Hey, how are you doing? Is everything okay? Out of concern. And he's like, yeah, somebody got hit by a car and passed away. That's a life gone, snuffed out, right? That's immediately something to think about, something to go deep about. Somebody's life is gone. Somebody woke up today thinking, maybe stressing about life, finances, maybe having drama in the home. Maybe they're going through some separation, or maybe they just had a wonderful Father's Day. Maybe they had a really good conversation with the bus driver, and then got out of the bus, crossing the street, got hit by a car, and that's that. I mean, there's so much depth to that, right? What if it was a young person? What if they're the only child? What if they didn't know God, right? And you think about that for yourself, you can internalize that conversation. Oh, we can't talk about that because, somebody lost their son or somebody lost their daughter. Why can't you just internalize that conversation? Yeah, you don't have to outwardly say anything. You can just think about yourself and say, wow, what am I doing with my life? Or am I right with certain people in my life? Or, wow, I really need to go and tell people about God, or I need to really share the love of God with other people. It's a hopeless place out there. There's so many things you can internalize rather than just go straight to, wow, that was offensive. Wow. Wow, you said that? Wow, how dare you? Oh, wow, you used the word retarded? Stop. We need to stop. We need to stop this soft, gingerly approach to life. Be honest, be straightforward, and just straight shoot. Yesterday at church, standing there having conversation with somebody, and I was standing in the lane, in one of the aisles, and she walked in front of me to go because she needed to cross, and anyways, so she was picking up something from the chair because she'd left it there, and as she's walking by me, right, I see something in her hair, and I was like, hey, hold on, and then just I was like, hey, can you turn around for a second? And I just pulled it out of her hair. I had no idea what it looked like or what it was. Didn't matter. The fact that something was in her hair, and rather than just let it go, say something, pull it out, and just flick it, and just say, hey, something was in your hair. And then, her response was just like, oh, yeah, she started to blush, but it was like, thank you for helping me for taking it out. And then we just had a joke about it. She's like, oh, maybe it was a booger. And I was like, oh, well, maybe it was a booger. Well, I just took it out of your hair or whatever. And we just had a joke about it, just a laugh about it. Like, there was nothing. There's nothing like, and she was just joking like, oh yeah, sometimes I pick my nose and then I wipe in my hair. I just laughed, right? Like, it's just a joke. Like, she wasn't serious, and even if she was, so what? Like, you pick your nose as well. If you don't admit to picking your nose, like, how surface of a life are you really living, right? Like, who cares? It's very human. Like, even when we at the dinner table, sometimes when you're eating, you're just having a good old meal, having a good discussion. Our family does all our meals together. The dad thing for me is the fart, and sometimes I burp, whatever. Like, that's just my dad. Like, growing up, my dad also just like a lot of farting at the dinner table, and we also, oddly enough, talk about poop at the table, and Like, it's just like, it's just normal. It's a normal thing for us as human beings almost. It just like, maybe it's also a Zhuang tradition to talk about poop while we eat. And my wife's going to kill me that I'm uploading this. But like, it's just the side of our humanity. Just, it's just who we are. It's unavoidable. Like, if there's something that's not, you're not able to talk about, like, I just feel like I'm such a straight shot person, and it doesn't even really affect me to talk about those sensitive issues. It's, if somebody's wanting to talk about it, we should be willing to open that space for them, because maybe there's something there for them. Maybe they're seeking somebody to relieve that pressure. And if we're just like, oh, whoa, you can't talk about that. Oh, whoa, you can't say that. Whoa, like, that's why I jump the gun on there. When I have the mic at church, man, I just go out and say, like, I'm yellow and I'm small. I'm, and I, one time shared, frozen yellow nuts because, cold dipping and stuff. And like, just get ahead of it. Like, internalize it. Is it true? Yes. Semblance of it is true. Do I have slanted eyes? Yeah, I do. So what? Like, just wear it. Just take it on. If you wear it as an armor, nobody can use it against you. Right? And so, I didn't intend for this, like I said, this episode to be this, but we need to straight shoot with people. Like, we need to be real. We need to be okay to talk about these things, because I honestly think that these mental health struggles and these things that we avoid talking about get us to a place of like, oh, well, then I'll just create a new reality. I'll just create my new truths. And this is what I believe. And because I believe it, you have to believe it as well. And you need to swallow the Kool-Aid, because it's my Kool-Aid. And you have to say it's good. And you have to say it's this color when it's not that color. You need to believe what I believe about myself. And you need to twist truth in my favor, because that's what I believe about myself. To hell with that. That is a pit straight. That is from hell. It's not to allow somebody to live in falsehood, to allow this ketchup and mustard stain to stay on your face. It is not loving. And so we must be bold. We must be forward. We must speak to the problem and tell them to their face, hey, this is wrong. I believe this is wrong. Yeah, is there a loving way to do that? Yes. I'm not name calling them. I'm not calling them a kook. I'm not calling them names. I'm telling them out of love that, hey, I don't think this is right. Case in point. Paul is very clear about this in the Bible about if something is a sin to your friend, don't do this in front of them. So, for example, eating pork in front of this friend who thinks that eating pork is a sin. Well, because I love this brother, I don't use the pork as a point of contention, and I don't eat pork in their presence. Don't order pork in their presence. Oh, can you avoid it for one meal? Absolutely. Avoid pork. Well, there are other things like, psychedelic mushrooms. And, maybe it's a Christian person using a psychedelic mushroom. I believe in my heart that is wrong. I believe in my heart that you are opening a portal to something that you cannot close back up. And it would be dangerous for you to do this. But who am I to question that in them? Who am I to question what they are getting from the Spirit, if it is even the Spirit? Yes, I know that God does not contradict himself, but I cannot be judgmental and question the Spirit within them. If they say this has helped them, great. But it's not my rule to tell them what they can or cannot do. I can only act in love and in grace. And maybe, sometimes I do get fired up because I'm one of those people, right? Growing up as a police, wanting to be a police officer, wanting to be Batman, right? I know where the line is. I know what the line is, and try not to get there. And because I know where that line is, when I see other friends there, I go, like, driving example. right? You're driving up traffic, right? There's traffic, and you have a lane forward, and suddenly there's a gap, right? You see a gap in the lane next to you, and it's actually a turn-off lane for another street. And you see a car going. Let's just say you're sitting in the traffic as well, and then there's a car going, and you notice that there's a gap up ahead, right? And you see the car start to go, and there's another car coming. You can anticipate that a collision is coming, right? Right? We all grimace. We go, oh no, like don't. Oh, you hope that they don't get into a car accident. Let's just say they're friends in that car. The people in the car. They're heading for a collision. Wouldn't you, out of love and care for the person, like be a little scared for them and worried for them? You would want them not to get into a car accident, and so you say, "No, please!" Like you want to stop them from impending doom. This is the same thing. In 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 not saying anything and not reacting to it, and if you have the opportunity to say something about it, you should, because you want them to not fall into that trap. You want them to not end up in that result, into a car accident, or opening up a spiritual portal that you could never close again, or you know you want to avoid that, right? There are things that you could do out of love, and that's really what I want to say is don't pussyfoot around these issues. Be as direct as you can, right? Because that's the response you want. In order to grow adequately, you don't want people to give you falsehood and tell you that your reality is okay and that things are okay. No, you always want to improve. You want to always get better. You always want to lean into the discomfort, because growth is uncomfortable. And that's how we grow as a civilization. We've gotten to the point now where we can't even help others improve. We can't even call out the imperfections that we see in other people. And it's no wonder we've gotten to this place where it's literally like we're a piece of software, and we're no longer allowed to have firmware, because all the imperfections are not allowed to be called out, because the bugs are not able to be reported, because we don't want to make you feel like a bad programmer because you designed this, and we don't want to hurt your feelings, and we don't want to tell you that there's issues with it. Instead, we're just going to tell you, hey, you're doing a good job, and you're this and that, and we're just softening our words and putting cherry on a piece of poop and feeding it to you, and saying that it's delicious. But no, when it stinks, tell somebody. When it's not working, tell somebody. When it's not benefiting them, tell them. Whenever they're facing impending doom, tell them. This is how we love each other. This is the way life is meant to be lived. And so really that's all I wanted to share. I went from talking about my daughter to talking about this being honest thing. And, honestly, yeah, it does tie in, right? Telling my daughter the honesty, the truth. This is a boundary, and we cannot cross it. We must be honest with people. We must be real with them. We cannot just coast through life and live its surface. Proud dad today. And, I hope this finds you well. I try to keep these short, but I always end up rambling. And, today's episode, I just thought, I have generally what I want to start out with, and it flows out something else. And so, if you're offended, good. Be offended, because that means that you need to work on something. There's something for you to work on, and there's something for you to internalize. If you want to put it all on me and project it all on me, go for it. Like, I really don't care. This is normal now in our day and age, and I've contended with it. I've had to contend with it, and I'm okay with it. I really don't care anymore. And so hopefully you internalize it, and if you don't, and if you no longer listen, God bless you. All the best to you. And so we're heading into July. Next week will be Canada Day, and so my kids only have today and tomorrow school, and summer is in full swing. And these episodes, I hope, will continue. I'm not going to give up. And so, thank you for joining me again. If this is your first time, know that we also post these onto YouTube, and you can watch them there. Please share this community. Please share this work, podcast, with other people. Pass this to somebody who you think could learn a thing or two about being honest, and being open and being upfront about things. This would very much help me in my podcast and the community in this work that I'm doing. And yeah, remember that we are not promised tomorrow. So remember to stay present and be present and stay noble. Thank you. Bye for now.